In the mystical world of Astoria, where magic and technology coexist, a young orphan named Kaito discovers an ancient artifact that marks him as the chosen wielder of the legendary Starblade. With dark forces rising, Kaito must unlock the sword's true power and gather a band of allies to protect Astoria from impending doom. Along the way, he uncovers secrets about his own lineage and the true nature of the 7 stars, guardians of the universe. Kaito's life as a street performer in Neo-Orion had always been a modest one. His days were spent juggling and dancing to the music of his broken lute, drawing a small crowd, earning just enough to buy food from the market stalls. But that evening, something felt different. As he performed his usual routine, the atmosphere shifted. People hushed as a strange, glowing light descended from the sky. A cloaked figure appeared, walking calmly through the crowd. His steps were deliberate, his presence commanding. Kaito, unaware of the importance of this moment, continued with his performance. As the figure neared, a sudden force gripped Kaito's chest. His fingers froze on the lute, and his eyes widened. The stranger reached into his cloak, pulling out a small crystal, pulsing with a strange, ethereal glow. Without saying a word, the figure handed the crystal to Kaito. "Take it," the figure said, his voice soft yet authoritative. "It is your fate." Kaito stared at the crystal in confusion, unsure whether he should take it. But then something inside him stirred. It was as if the crystal was calling to him, its energy resonating deep within his soul. He reached out instinctively, and as soon as his fingers brushed its surface, a surge of power coursed through his body. The crowd gasped as the crystal exploded into a brilliant flash of light. In the blink of an eye, Kaito found himself on his knees, the crystal now glowing brightly in his hand, and his body alight with an unfamiliar, intense energy. His vision blurred, and strange images flashed before his eyes, vast cities of crystal, skies darkened by powerful forces, and a celestial blade shining in the distance. The figure nodded, as though expecting this. "You are the one," he said, before turning and walking away without another word. The moment he left, the light faded, leaving Kaito standing alone in the square, holding the starstone. The crowd around him began to murmur nervously, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Kaito, too, was shaken, unable to process what had just happened. What was that? Kaito muttered to himself, still holding the crystal. Why me? Little did he know, the path ahead would be far more treacherous than anything he could have ever imagined. The following days were filled with uncertainty for Kaito. He kept the starstone close, unable to let go of it despite its unsettling presence. He found himself drawn to the outskirts of Neo-Orion, seeking some semblance of peace as his mind raced. But that peace would not last long. One evening, while wandering near the outskirts, Kaito was ambushed by shadowy figures, creatures with twisted, blackened limbs and glowing red eyes. They moved with unnatural speed, their forms flickering in and out of existence like phantoms. Kaito's heart raced. He tried to run, but the creatures closed in on him with terrifying ease. He stumbled backward, his breath quickening as he raised his hands defensively. The starstone pulsed in his palm, almost as if it had a life of its own, and suddenly, Kaito felt a sharp surge of power course through him. The ground beneath him trembled, and the starstone flashed with a brilliant light. A blade, silver, but pulsing with an ancient, blue energy, materialized before him. The Starblade. It was as if the weapon had been waiting for this moment, calling out to him from within the stone itself. The Starblade was a living entity, a sentient sword forged by the 7 stars, the legendary guardians of the universe. The moment Kaito gripped the hilt, his entire body was flooded with its power. The blade hummed, sending vibrations through his body, as though it recognized its chosen bearer. "Defend yourself," the voice of the sword echoed in Kaito's mind. It was a low, resonant voice, both commanding and wise. Without thinking, Kaito swung the Starblade. The dark creatures recoiled, but they were not deterred. With each strike, the sword cut through the shadows effortlessly, its blue light carving a path of destruction through the darkness. Kaito moved with an unfamiliar grace, the sword guiding his every motion, as if it were an extension of his own body. In a matter of moments, the creatures lay vanquished on the ground. Kaito stood, panting heavily, his heart racing. The Starblade hummed quietly in his hand, as though it had anticipated his actions. What was that? Kaito breathed. His eyes fell on the defeated enemies, their bodies dissolving into smoke. He looked down at the blade again, his mind reeling from the events that had just unfolded. This is only the beginning, the sword's voice whispered. Zephyr is coming. Kaito's mind went blank. Zephyr? Who's that? The one who seeks the Starblade, the sword replied ominously. He will stop at nothing to claim its power. Kaito could feel the weight of the sword's warning. Something far greater than him was now at play, and he had just been thrust into the center of it. Kaito spent the next few weeks traveling across the land, still trying to comprehend the power he had gained. Everywhere he went, whispers of dark creatures and shadowy figures began to follow him. He realized that these creatures were not just random attacks, they were sent after him, targeting him for the Starblade. His journey took him to the village of Rylith, a remote settlement nestled at the edge of the Emerald Forest. It was here that he encountered Erica, a young woman skilled with a bow and arrow. She had been hunting in the forest when she spotted Kaito being pursued by shadow creatures. Seeing his struggle, she stepped in to help, her arrows piercing through the dark figures with precision and speed. What are these things? Kaito asked as he caught his breath, his eyes wide in disbelief. They're called voidlings, Erica explained, her voice steady and calm. Monsters sent by Zephyr, no doubt. He's the only one who can control them. Kaito's expression darkened. Zephyr. Again. Erica gave him a wary look. You're not from around here, are you? I've heard of the Starblade, but I never thought I'd meet its wielder. Kaito shook his head. I didn't ask for this. I don't even know what's going on. Erica stepped closer, her gaze softening. I'll help you. I've been hunting these things for years, but I can't do it alone. And I think you might be the key to stopping this. Kaito hesitated, but then nodded. He had no other choice. Together, they would face the threat of Zephyr. Soon, they were joined by Leo, a young inventor and a self-proclaimed genius. Leo had spent years developing gadgets using fragments of starstone, pieces of the very crystals that powered the relics of the 7 stars. His inventions were powered by the same energy that coursed through Kaito's blade, making him an invaluable ally. Alright, so we've got a magic sword, an archer, and an inventor. Seems like a good start, Leo quipped with a grin, adjusting his goggles. Let's just hope we're not walking into a trap. Kaito, Erica, and Leo made their way to the distant capital city of Astoria, where they hoped to uncover more about Zephyr's plans and find other relic bearers like Kaito. Little did they know, the path ahead would be filled with treachery, dark secrets, and an ancient prophecy that could alter the very fabric of the universe. The journey to the capital city of Astoria was long and treacherous. As the trio traveled through forests, mountains, and plains, they encountered strange and deadly creatures that tested their abilities. Each day, they fought off attacks from Zephyr's forces, voidlings, rogue sorcerers, and even magical beasts, while trying to piece together the puzzle of their enemies' true intentions. One night, as they camped beneath the stars, Kaito sat by the fire, the Starblade resting beside him. Erica and Leo sat nearby, the flickering light casting shadows over their tired faces. You know, Leo began, adjusting his goggles, there's a theory I read about the Starblade and the 7 stars. They say the relics of the 7 stars were scattered across the world after the Celestial War. Whoever reunites all of them could rule the universe, Kaito finished for him. I know. But, what if Zephyr wants to use them to destroy everything instead? Erica nodded gravely. He has a thirst for power, but there's something else. I've heard rumors about an ancient prophecy, the one that foretells the coming of a chosen one. I think that's you, Kaito. Kaito sighed, running his fingers over the hilt of the Starblade. I don't know if I'm the chosen one. All I know is that I'm stuck in the middle of something way bigger than me. Leo leaned forward. None of us asked for this, but we've got to see it through. If Zephyr gets all the relics, there's no telling what he'll do. Kaito's eyes glinted with resolve. Then we'll stop him. I won't let him destroy everything. But the trials were far from over. The next day, the trio encountered their first major test. As they neared the ruins of an ancient temple rumored to hold one of the Starstone relics, they were ambushed by a powerful creature, an ancient beast known as a wyvern. Its scales shimmered like obsidian, and its eyes burned with a fiery glow. With a roar that shook the earth, it lunged toward them, claws bared. Erica quickly nocked an arrow, releasing it with deadly precision, but the wyvern dodged with ease, its massive wings creating gusts of wind that knocked them back. Kaito grabbed the Starblade, his hands trembling as he faced the creature. How do we defeat this thing? Leo shouted, scrambling to pull out a device from his bag. I can't use my gadgets against something like this. I'll distract it. Erica yelled, already sprinting toward the wyvern. She fired a series of rapid arrows, each hitting the beast's wings but failing to do much damage. The wyvern roared in anger, its tail swinging toward her. Kaito raised the Starblade, its energy crackling with blue light. Stay back, Erica, he shouted. Without thinking, he charged toward the wyvern, the Starblade glowing brighter with each step. As the beast turned to face him, Kaito swung the blade with all his strength. The Starblade clashed against the wyvern's armored hide, sending sparks flying, but the sword didn't stop. It cut through the scales like butter, leaving a deep gash along the creature's side. The wyvern screeched in pain, thrashing wildly. Kaito pushed forward, following the sword's guidance, until he reached the beast's heart. With a final, decisive strike, he drove the blade deep into the creature's chest. The wyvern let out a final, mournful cry before collapsing to the ground, its body dissolving into dark smoke. Kaito stood over the fallen beast, breathing heavily. The Starblade hummed in his hand, almost as if it were pleased with the outcome. Erica ran up to him, her eyes wide. You did it. I didn't think we had a chance against that thing. Leo panted as he caught up. That was insane. I thought for sure we were done for. Kaito looked at the Starblade, its glow dimming. It's the sword, it's guiding me. I can feel it. Erica nodded. It's more than just a weapon. The Starblade is part of you now. We need to find the other relics before Zephyr does. A week later, they arrived at the hidden temple in the Cloud Peak Mountains, where an ancient sage named Shirori resided. The temple was built high atop a mountain, surrounded by a vast expanse of clouds, making it difficult to reach. But with their combined skills, Erica's agility, Leo's inventions, and Kaito's growing strength, they finally made their way inside. The temple was a grand structure, with columns made of shimmering stone and walls covered in ancient runes. The air inside felt thick with magic, and the silence was almost oppressive. As they ventured deeper into the temple, they came upon a large chamber, where an elderly woman with long silver hair awaited them. Her eyes gleamed with wisdom, and a gentle aura surrounded her. Welcome, Kaito, the sage said, her voice warm yet filled with an ancient authority. I have been expecting you. Kaito stared at her, unsure of what to say. How do you know my name? Shirori smiled gently. I have seen many things in my time. The Starblade is no mere weapon, it is a key to unlocking the true power of the 7 stars. You are the chosen one, Kaito. The fate of this world, and many others, rests on your shoulders. Kaito shook his head. I don't understand. What are the 7 stars? And why me? Shiori's eyes softened. The 7 stars were once guardians of the universe. They were celestial beings, each imbued with the power to protect the balance of the cosmos. The Starblade is the weapon of the first star, a being who sacrificed themselves to protect the fabric of existence. But the stars were scattered across the world, and with their separation, darkness began to creep in. She stepped closer, placing a hand on the Starblade. You are not just a chosen wielder. You are a descendant of the first star. The blood of the ancient guardians flows through your veins, Kaito. That is why you are the one who can wield the Starblade and unlock its true power. Kaito's heart pounded in his chest. So, I'm part of the 7 stars? Shiori nodded. Yes. But with this power comes great responsibility. Zephyr seeks to harness the power of the stars for his own dark purposes. He wants to remake the universe in his image, using the power of the void. You must stop him before he succeeds. Kaito looked down at the Starblade, its light now pulsing with a new intensity. I'll stop him. But I need help. I can't do this alone. Shiori smiled. You are not alone. You have already gathered allies, and there are others who will come. But remember, the true strength lies not just in the sword, but in the bonds you form along the way. With new knowledge of his heritage and the weight of his destiny, Kaito felt a renewed sense of purpose. However, the trials ahead would only grow more difficult. As they ventured toward their next destination, the ancient city of the Wrath, where another Starstone relic was rumored to be hidden, they encountered an unexpected setback. During a night of rest at a small village, Kaito's trust in his companions would be shattered. Leo, who had always been the most optimistic and light-hearted of the group, was seen speaking in hushed tones to a shadowy figure from the village. Kaito, Erika, and Leo had all been sleeping nearby, but something about the conversation didn't sit right with Kaito. The next morning, as they prepared to leave, Kaito confronted Leo. Leo, who were you talking to last night? Leo hesitated, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by something darker. It's nothing. Just, someone from my past. Erika shot Leo a wary glance. Kaito's right to ask. We can't afford secrets now. At that moment, a group of Zephyr's voidlings attacked the village, their red eyes glowing in the distance. Kaito drew the Starblade, ready for battle, but as the chaos erupted, Leo's true intentions were revealed. Without warning, Leo pulled out a strange device, a device powered by a fragment of the Starstone, but altered to siphon its energy. He pointed it at Kaito. I'm sorry, Kaito, Leo said, his voice cold and distant. But I've been paid to deliver you to Zephyr. He promised me power beyond anything I could ever imagine. Kaito's heart sank. You betrayed us? Leo's eyes flickered with regret, but his resolve remained. I didn't want to, but I have no choice. You've always been the key, Kaito. And I can't let you stop Zephyr. With a swift motion, Leo activated the device, sending a burst of energy toward Kaito. The blast sent Kaito flying back, his body crashing into the ground. Leo, stop! Erika shouted, her eyes filled with anger and confusion. But it was too late. The damage had been done. Kaito struggled to regain his breath as the energy blast left him disoriented, his body tingling with the shock of the attack. Leo's face was a mixture of regret and resolve, but it did little to ease the sting of betrayal. Kaito slowly rose to his feet, clutching the Starblade tightly. His heart was racing, the weight of what had just happened threatening to crush him. Why, Leo? Kaito managed to choke out, his voice filled with disbelief. After everything we've been through, why would you do this? Leo's eyes flickered, and for a moment, Kaito saw the man he had once trusted, the inventor who had always cracked jokes to ease the tension, the ally who had saved him more times than he could count. But that was gone now. I needed to survive, Kaito, Leo said, his voice heavy with the burden of his decision. You don't understand. Zephyr promised me everything. Power. Knowledge. My own destiny. He told me that with the Starblade, I could reshape the world. Erica stepped forward, her bow now drawn, her gaze sharp. You don't need that kind of power, Leo. Zephyr's corruption has already taken root inside you. Leo's expression hardened, but there was still a flicker of hesitation. It's not about power anymore, Erica. It's about survival. I don't have a choice. None of us do. Kaito tightened his grip on the Starblade, the sword responding to his emotions. A surge of blue energy rippled through him. He wanted to lash out at Leo, to strike him down for the betrayal, but a part of him knew that wasn't the right course of action. You're wrong, Kaito said firmly, stepping forward. We always have a choice. We can still stop Zephyr, Leo. You don't have to do this. Leo's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but before he could respond, the ground began to tremble. The voidlings had arrived in full force. They charged at the group, their twisted forms charging in from all sides. Kaito's heart pounded in his chest. This was no longer about Leo's betrayal, it was about survival. Get ready! Kaito shouted. He brandished the Starblade, its blue light illuminating the night as the first wave of voidlings came at them. The battle raged on in a flurry of magic, steel, and chaos. Kaito, Erica, and Leo, though still conflicted, fought together against the oncoming hordes. Kaito's Starblade shone with fierce energy as he cut through the voidlings, the blade moving with an elegance that seemed to transcend his own abilities. Leo, stay focused. Erica called out, her voice cutting through the battle. Help us. We can still win. Leo hesitated for a moment, looking at Kaito, then back at the swarm of creatures. The hesitation was brief, but it was enough. He pulled out his gadgets, quickly activating a series of mechanical traps and devices. Small bombs and energy barriers shot out, taking down a number of voidlings in an instant. Kaito's eyes widened as Leo began to fight beside them. You're helping? I owe you that much, Leo muttered, his voice tinged with bitterness. But I'm still not sure what side I'm on. Erica shot Leo a concerned glance, but didn't have time to respond. The battle was intensifying. Kaito swung the Starblade again, slashing through the voidlings with brutal efficiency. But despite their efforts, there seemed to be no end to the onslaught. More and more voidlings kept emerging from the shadows, pouring in like a relentless tide. Is this ever going to end? Kaito shouted, his voice strained. He felt the weight of the Starblade begin to drag on him, the energy it took to wield it beginning to wear him down. Erica, her eyes sharp with determination, shot an arrow straight through a voidling's heart. We have to hold on a little longer. We'll fight until the end. But even with their combined strength, the voidlings showed no signs of stopping. It seemed as if they were fighting a losing battle. Then, suddenly, a blast of dark magic rang out from the distance, cutting through the sky like a streak of lightning. The ground shook, and the voidlings paused, momentarily stunned. A figure stepped out of the shadows. A tall, imposing figure draped in black robes, his eyes glowing with malevolent power. His voice was low, commanding, and filled with darkness. You fools, Zephyr sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. You think you can stand against me? The time of the 7 stars is over. Now is the time of my reign. Kaito's blood ran cold as he locked eyes with Zephyr. This was the man who had orchestrated the destruction of everything they held dear. The man who sought to claim the Starblade and the power of the 7 stars for himself. We'll never let you win, Zephyr, Kaito said, his voice filled with defiance. I'll stop you no matter what it takes. Zephyr laughed, a cruel, echoing sound that sent chills down Kaito's spine. You don't understand, boy. The Starblade is just the beginning. The true power of the 7 stars will belong to me, and with it, I will reshape the universe in my image. You are nothing but a tool in a game far beyond your understanding. With a flick of his wrist, Zephyr sent a wave of dark energy toward Kaito. The force was overwhelming, knocking Kaito to the ground, and the Starblade slipped from his grip. He could feel the darkness closing in around him, suffocating him. As the darkness surrounded him, Kaito felt a strange sensation, an urge to fight back, to push through the crushing weight of Zephyr's magic. The Starblade, still lying nearby, began to pulse with an intense energy. It called out to him, resonating with his very soul. "No," Kaito whispered, struggling to rise. "I won't give up." The Starblade's energy surged, its power filling the air with a dazzling light. Kaito gritted his teeth, focusing on the blade, reaching out with every fiber of his being. The sword was not just an instrument, it was a part of him, and he would not let it fall into Zephyr's hands. With a final push, Kaito grabbed the Starblade and rose to his feet. The energy flowing through him was overwhelming, but it was also empowering. The Starblade seemed to respond to his emotions, to his determination, and it began to glow brighter, its power amplifying. "You're right, Zephyr," Kaito said, his voice steady and filled with newfound strength. "The 7 stars won't belong to you. They belong to me. And I will protect this world with everything I have." In that moment, the Starblade flared with brilliant blue light, and the shadows that surrounded Kaito seemed to recoil from the sword's power. The light spread out like a wave, sweeping through the battlefield, pushing the voidlings back and weakening Zephyr's dark magic. "You have no power here," Kaito shouted, his voice filled with righteous fury. Zephyr's face twisted in anger, his eyes blazing with fury. "You fool! You don't understand the forces you're playing with." But Kaito's resolve was unshakable. The power of the Starblade was his to command, and with it, he would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The battlefield was alive with energy. Kaito stood tall, the Starblade glowing fiercely in his hand, its ethereal blue light pushing back the shadows of Zephyr's dark magic. The voidlings screeched as the sword's power burned through the darkness that had gathered around them. The entire landscape was illuminated by the pure energy radiating from Kaito and the blade. Zephyr, however, remained unshaken. He raised his hands, and with a dark incantation, the air around him rippled. A storm of black energy coiled like serpents around his arms, and he sent it hurtling toward Kaito. The force was powerful, crashing against the Starblade like a tidal wave. Kaito gritted his teeth as the impact pushed him back, but his grip on the Starblade remained firm. He could feel the sword's power coursing through him, amplifying his strength, but Zephyr's magic was something else. It was as if the entire world was collapsing in on him, the dark forces overwhelming him at every turn. "Is this all you have, Kaito?" Zephyr taunted, his voice cold and mocking. "You think you can stop me? The 7 stars are mine for the taking. You're just a fleeting moment in this vast, cosmic game." But Kaito's resolve only grew stronger. He could hear the faint whispers of the Starblade in his mind, urging him to push forward. "You're wrong, Zephyr. The power of the 7 stars isn't for domination or destruction. It's for protection. For balance." Kaito's words rang with certainty, and with a fierce cry, he raised the Starblade above his head. The sword pulsed with a light so bright that it seemed to tear through the dark clouds, illuminating the sky like a new dawn. In that instant, Kaito felt an overwhelming surge of energy, more than he had ever experienced before. The blade was no longer just a weapon, it was an extension of his will, a manifestation of his purpose. With a swift motion, Kaito slashed through the dark energy that Zephyr had conjured, the Starblade cutting through it like a hot knife through butter. The dark storm cracked and split, dissipating in the wind. Zephyr's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. But before he could react, Kaito charged. The power of the Starblade resonated through the air, and with each step, Kaito's confidence grew. He was no longer just fighting for survival, he was fighting for the future of Astoria, for the people he had come to care about, and for the legacy of the 7 stars. The clash between the two forces was deafening. Zephyr conjured waves of destructive magic, but Kaito parried them with the Starblade, each strike sending shockwaves through the air. The battlefield shook as the two powers collided in an epic showdown. Kaito's strength was growing. He could feel the connection to the Starblade deepening, the sword responding to his every thought and emotion. With each slash, each maneuver, the sword became more in tune with his spirit, its power strengthening as he embraced his role as the chosen wielder. Zephyr's confidence began to falter as Kaito pressed on, his attacks relentless. "You cannot win," Zephyr spat, summoning more dark magic. "You are nothing more than a tool in this grand design." "I am not a tool," Kaito retorted, his voice fierce. "I am the one who will end your reign of darkness." With one final, powerful strike, Kaito's Starblade pierced through Zephyr's dark magic, cutting through his defenses. Zephyr let out a pained cry as the blade struck him, the energy of the 7 stars surging through the weapon, sealing his fate. Section 11, The Fall of Zephyr. Zephyr staggered back, clutching at the wound in his chest. The dark magic around him sputtered and flickered, as if the very essence of his power was being torn apart. He looked up at Kaito with a mixture of disbelief and rage, his once immense presence now diminished. You can't do this." Zephyr gasped, his voice hoarse. "The power of the stars, it's mine. You can't stop me." Kaito stood over him, the Starblade still glowing brightly in his hand, its energy resonating with the very core of his being. "I'm not trying to stop you for power, Zephyr. I'm stopping you because you've lost your way. The 7 stars weren't meant to be used for destruction, but for protection. You've twisted that power for your own gain, and that ends now." With a final, decisive motion, Kaito raised the Starblade high. The sword shone brighter than ever before, its energy radiating with the purity of the 7 stars. As Kaito brought the blade down, it cut through the darkness that had clouded Zephyr's heart, banishing the malevolent magic and releasing the energy that had once been consumed by Zephyr's corruption. Zephyr let out one last, strangled cry before his body was consumed by the light. The air around them crackled, and a brilliant flash of energy erupted from the Starblade, sweeping across the battlefield and wiping away the remnants of Zephyr's dark magic. When the light faded, Zephyr was gone, his body reduced to ash, his power extinguished. The battlefield fell silent, the storm of dark magic dissipating, leaving behind a serene stillness. Kaito lowered the Starblade, his breathing heavy but steady. His heart was pounding in his chest, but there was a sense of peace settling over him. The battle was over, and the darkness had been vanquished. For now, at least. Erica and Leo approached cautiously, their faces filled with a mixture of relief and awe. "You did it, Kaito," Erica said, her voice filled with admiration. "You stopped him." Leo, his face weary but relieved, nodded. "I never thought we'd make it this far, but we did. Thanks to you." Kaito smiled faintly, his grip still tight on the Starblade. "We did it together," he said, looking at each of them in turn. "We're not done yet, though. There's still more to this story. The 7 stars are more than just weapons, they're part of something much bigger. And I need to understand why I was chosen to wield the Starblade." With Zephyr's defeat, the immediate threat to Astoria had been quelled, but Kaito knew that his journey was far from over. The Starblade, now fully attuned to him, hummed softly at his side, its energy constant, reminding him of the task still ahead. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to uncover, more to understand about the 7 stars, about his role as the chosen wielder, and the cosmic forces that had guided him this far. Erica, Leo, and Kaito made their way back to the capital city of Astoria, where they hoped to find answers. The city had been affected by the chaos Zephyr had wrought, but with his fall, the people were beginning to rebuild. However, the sense of victory was tempered by an unsettling truth: Zephyr was not the only one who sought the power of the 7 stars. Others would come, seeking to claim what had been left behind. As they entered the capital, Kaito felt a strange pull in his chest, as though something, or someone, was calling to him. He wasn't sure what it was, but the sense of destiny was undeniable. "We need to visit the archives," Kaito said suddenly, his voice filled with urgency. "There's more about the 7 stars that we don't know. I can feel it." Erika and Leo exchanged a glance before nodding in agreement. They made their way to the central archives of Astoria, a massive structure filled with ancient scrolls, texts, and relics from across the ages. The building was old, its walls lined with inscriptions and carvings that seemed to whisper of forgotten histories. Inside, an elderly librarian greeted them with a knowing smile. "Ah, the Starblade bearer," the librarian said, her eyes twinkling. "I've been waiting for you." Kaito frowned. "You know who I am?" The librarian nodded. "The time has come to reveal the truth about the 7 stars. There are secrets that have been hidden for millennia, secrets that only a chosen one can unlock." Kaito's heart raced. "What secrets?" The librarian led them deep into the archives, where an ancient tome lay open on a stone pedestal. The 7 stars were not simply guardians, the librarian explained. They were the protectors of balance, the keepers of the threads that bind the fabric of the universe. Each star represents a different force: life, death, time, space, light, dark, and destiny. Kaito stared at the book, his mind racing. "And I'm the one who wields the Starblade. What does that mean for me?" The librarian smiled. "It means that you are the key to unlocking the true power of the 7 stars. You were chosen not just to wield the blade, but to protect the balance itself." The atmosphere in the ancient archives was heavy with mystery. Kaito stood at the pedestal, the open tome revealing intricate diagrams of the 7 stars, each depicted as a radiant celestial being, surrounded by symbols that represented different aspects of existence. Time, space, light, death, and more. It was a map of the universe, a guide to the forces that shaped the very fabric of reality. The librarian, a woman named Althea, looked at Kaito with an expression of quiet understanding. "Each of the 7 stars carries the essence of a cosmic force. The Starblade you wield is the embodiment of the first star, the star of light, the one who guided the other 6 to their places in the universe. The stars were once united, working in harmony to protect the balance." Kaito felt the weight of her words. "But something happened, didn't it? The stars were scattered, and now their power is being misused." Althea nodded. "Yes. After the Great War. When the stars fell from their places in the sky, their powers were sealed within relics like the Starblade. The balance was shattered, and the universe began to unravel. Zephyr sought to break that balance, to claim the power of the stars for himself and reshape the cosmos according to his will." Kaito's grip tightened on the Starblade. "But why me? Why was I chosen to wield it? What is it about me that makes me the chosen one?" Althea smiled gently. "It is not just who you are, Kaito, but what you are. You are a descendant of the first star, born with the potential to restore the balance that has been lost. The Starblade has been waiting for you, for someone who can unite the power of the 7 stars and protect the universe from those who would use it for their own purposes." Kaito's mind was swirling. "So, I'm supposed to fix everything? I barely understand what's going on, let alone how to stop anyone else who wants the power of the stars." "You will learn, Kaito," Althea said, her voice calm and reassuring. "The Starblade will guide you, and those who are meant to stand by your side will join you in this journey. But you must be prepared. The road ahead will be fraught with challenges, each of the other relics is guarded by powerful forces, and Zephyr's influence has not ended with his death." Leo stepped forward, his voice filled with determination. "We'll help you, Kaito. We've already come this far together. We'll face whatever comes next." Erika nodded, her bow resting on her shoulder. "Together. No one can stop us if we stand united." Kaito looked at his companions, his heart swelling with gratitude. He wasn't alone. He had people who believed in him, who were willing to fight by his side. The burden of the 7 stars was heavy, but with friends like these, he wasn't sure he could fail. Althea's eyes softened as she gazed at the 3 of them. The first step in your journey will be to seek out the other relics. There is one hidden in the Temple of Time, located in the heart of the desert. Another rests within the depths of the abyss, guarded by the Star of Death itself. Kaito's pulse quickened at the mention of the Temple of Time. The Star of Time? Althea nodded. Yes. The Star of Time is one of the most elusive and powerful of the 7 stars. Its relic is said to control the flow of time itself. It is heavily guarded by ancient mechanisms and traps designed to protect it from those who would seek to exploit its power. Leo raised an eyebrow. Time? That sounds complicated. Erika crossed her arms. It's not just complicated. It's dangerous. Kaito took a deep breath. But we can do it. We'll find the other relics and make sure they don't fall into the wrong hands. Althea smiled warmly. I have faith in you, Kaito. The Starblade has chosen you for a reason. You must unlock the true power of the 7 stars, and in doing so, you will restore the balance. The journey to the Temple of Time was long and arduous. The desert stretched out before them, an endless sea of sand beneath the blistering sun. The scorching heat made it difficult to travel, but Kaito, Erika, and Leo pressed on, determined to reach their destination. Kaito could feel the Starblade pulsing with energy at his side, its presence both reassuring and intimidating. The closer they got to the Temple of Time, the more the sword seemed to hum with power. It was as if the blade itself was resonating with the forces of time that protected the relic within the temple. This place is ancient, Erika remarked as they approached the temple's entrance, which was hidden behind a massive wall of stone. I've heard stories of it, but no one's been able to enter for centuries. Leo pulled out one of his devices, scanning the area. I've got a few gadgets that could help, but we'll need to be careful. This place is likely trapped, and the time magic could throw us off balance if we're not careful. Kaito nodded. Let's go in, but we need to stay focused. We can't let the Temple of Time's power control us. The massive stone door to the temple creaked open with a low rumble, revealing a vast interior filled with intricate carvings and ancient symbols. As they stepped inside, the air seemed to shimmer with an ethereal glow, and Kaito could feel time itself warping around them. The flow of time inside the temple was unstable, like a river moving in multiple directions at once. This is it, Kaito said, his voice filled with awe. The Star of Time is somewhere in here. Erika glanced around cautiously. Let's hope we don't run into any traps. The trio proceeded through the temple, navigating a series of increasingly complex puzzles and obstacles designed to protect the relic. They encountered rooms that reversed the flow of time, corridors that seemed to loop back on themselves, and illusions that distorted their perceptions of reality. Each time they overcame one challenge, another appeared, more difficult than the last. Leo worked quickly, using his inventions to manipulate the flow of time in the temple, creating temporary safe zones where the group could catch their breath. Erika's keen instincts and quick reflexes kept them safe from the worst of the traps, while Kaito's connection to the Starblade seemed to guide them toward their destination. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they arrived at the inner sanctum of the temple, a grand chamber filled with ancient artifacts, all radiating with the power of the Star of Time. At the center of the room, suspended in midair, was a golden relic, a crystal that pulsed with a light that bent and twisted, as though it were made of time itself. Kaito approached cautiously, the Starblade vibrating with energy as he drew closer. This is it, he whispered, his voice filled with reverence. But as he reached out to take the relic, a voice echoed through the chamber. You seek the Star of Time, but are you truly worthy to wield it? The voice was deep and resonant, carrying the weight of ages. A figure materialized in front of Kaito, a being composed of pure light, its form shifting and flickering like the flow of time itself. "You must prove yourself, Kaito," the figure said, its eyes glowing with ancient power. "Only one who understands the true nature of time can wield the Star of Time." Kaito's heart raced. This was no ordinary guardian. This was the essence of time itself. The challenge ahead would test his understanding of the forces he had been chosen to protect. "We're ready," Kaito said, his voice steady. "We've come this far. We'll prove that we're worthy." The being before Kaito smiled, its form flickering like a passing moment. "Very well, Kaito. To prove your worth, you must face the trial of time. You will be forced to relive your past, confront your greatest fears, and choose your future." The room around them began to shift, the walls warping and distorting as the air grew thick with temporal energy. Kaito felt his body being pulled into the current of time, his surroundings blurring as though he were traveling through a series of fleeting moments. "Do not resist," the voice boomed. "This is your test." Kaito's mind raced. He felt himself being pulled into a memory from his childhood, his parents, their faces full of warmth, smiling at him. But as the vision continued, it shifted into a memory of their deaths, the moment when his world had been torn apart. The pain, the loss, the feeling of helplessness flooded back. "No," Kaito whispered, struggling against the overwhelming emotions. "I'm not that child anymore. I've grown stronger. I've found a purpose." The vision flickered, and Kaito found himself facing a different memory, a time when he had failed someone close to him. He saw himself, powerless, unable to protect those he loved. But this time, he didn't let the guilt consume him. "I learned from my mistakes," he said, his voice firm. "I won't fail again." The chamber shifted again, and Kaito was confronted with his deepest fear, the fear of losing everything he had fought for. The Starblade, his companions, his newfound sense of purpose, all of it slipping through his fingers. But Kaito stood tall, the Starblade pulsing with light at his side. "I will not be afraid. I will protect everything I care about." The test was not about power. It was about understanding the true nature of time, the past, the present, and the future, and using that understanding to forge his own path. As Kaito spoke those words, the being of light nodded, its form dissolving into a burst of radiant energy. "You have passed, Kaito. You are worthy." The Star of Time descended from its pedestal, glowing brightly as it landed gently in Kaito's hands. The Starblade and the Star of Time resonated together, their energies merging as one. "You have unlocked the true power of time," the voice said, now softer, almost approving. "With this power, you are one step closer to restoring the balance." With the Star of Time now in his hands, Kaito felt the weight of its power settle in his chest. It was as if the very flow of time had become a part of him. He could feel the delicate strands of the past, present, and future intertwining, and in that moment, everything seemed clearer. He wasn't just the bearer of the Starblade, he was now a guardian of time itself. As the light from the Star of Time faded, Kaito turned to Erika and Leo, who had watched him with a mix of awe and anticipation. "It's done," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "We have the power to control time, but it comes with great responsibility." Leo, always the inquisitive one, looked at the glowing crystal in Kaito's hand. "So, what now? We've got the power to control time, but how do we use it?" Kaito's gaze drifted to the Starblade, still humming softly at his side. "We don't control it. We protect it. This power isn't meant to be wielded recklessly. We need to use it wisely, only when absolutely necessary." Erika, her brow furrowed, glanced at Kaito. "But how do we know what's necessary? We've already faced so much, and Zephyr wasn't the only threat. There will be more." Kaito nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "There will always be more. But we'll be ready." The Star of Time pulsed gently in his hands, as if acknowledging his resolve. Kaito could feel the path ahead becoming clearer. The relics of the 7 stars had guided him so far, but now it was up to him to decide how they would shape the future. "Let's go back to Astoria," Kaito said, his voice firm with determination. "We need to find the others, and we need to learn more about the rest of the stars. We still don't know the full extent of the threat we're facing." Leo grinned. "Now that we've got time on our side, we've got to make sure we don't waste it." Erica smiled at Leo's lightheartedness. "Let's go then. We've still got a long way to go." The journey back to Astoria was quicker than their initial trek, thanks to the power of the Star of Time. Kaito found that he could bend time in small ways, slowing it, speeding it up, just enough to make their travels more efficient. But even with these abilities, the sense of urgency never left him. The more time they spent searching for answers, the more Kaito realized that their journey was far from over. As they arrived in the heart of the capital, they were greeted by the sight of the city slowly beginning to rebuild after the chaos that Zephyr had wrought. But the people's faces were still haunted by fear, their eyes searching the skies for the next threat. The Starblade had brought peace for now, but the knowledge that other relics existed weighed heavily on Kaito's shoulders. They made their way to the city's grand library, a massive structure that housed knowledge from all corners of the world. It was here, Kaito hoped, that they would find more information about the remaining starstones, the other guardians, and the true nature of the 7 stars. Inside the library, they were greeted by a librarian named Marin, who had worked alongside Althea in the past. "I've been expecting you," Marin said, her voice soft yet authoritative. "Althea told me about your journey. I've gathered everything we could find about the 7 stars." Kaito nodded, his heart racing. "Thank you. We need to know everything." Marin led them to a secluded section of the library, where dusty tomes and scrolls were stacked in neat rows. As she began to pull out various books, Kaito couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The more they uncovered, the more he realized just how deep the secrets of the 7 stars ran. One book in particular caught Kaito's attention. It was old, its pages yellowed with age. The title was written in a language Kaito didn't recognize, but as he touched the cover, the book opened on its own. The pages began to glow, and ancient symbols appeared before him, filling his mind with images of celestial beings and cosmic forces. He stumbled back, overwhelmed by the flood of information. He saw visions of the 7 stars, their power, and the cataclysmic event that had separated them. He saw battles fought in the far reaches of the universe, ancient civilizations rising and falling, and the eternal struggle between light and dark. At the center of it all was a being of pure darkness, whose power threatened to undo everything the 7 stars had fought to protect. This being, Kaito realized, was not Zephyr. It was something much older, much more dangerous. "That's it," Kaito said breathlessly, his mind reeling from the visions. "The true threat isn't just Zephyr. It's something older. Something more powerful." Marin's face grew serious. "Yes. The being you saw is known as the Void. It is the embodiment of destruction itself. The 7 stars were created to guard against its influence, but over time, their power faded, and the Void began to stir once again." Leo looked at Kaito, his expression grim. "So, we've only scratched the surface of this whole thing." Kaito nodded. "We need to find the remaining starstones. And we need to prepare for the Void's return." As Kaito, Erica, and Leo absorbed the knowledge from the library, they realized that their quest was far from over. The Void, the true enemy, had been sealed away long ago, but its influence had begun to spread again. If they didn't stop it, the universe itself would fall into chaos. Kaito felt the weight of his responsibility growing heavier with each passing moment. The Starblade and the Star of Time were powerful, but they were only the beginning. To stop the Void, they needed to find the remaining starstones, and each one was guarded by forces more powerful than anything they had faced before. "We need to act fast," Kaito said, determination in his eyes. "The Void is getting closer, and if we don't stop it, everything we've fought for will be destroyed. Erika placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll stop it, Kaito. We've come this far. We've faced every challenge together, and we'll face this one too. Leo nodded, his usual bravado returning. Besides, with all this power on our side, what could possibly go wrong? Kaito smiled, but the weight of the situation was not lost on him. The power of the 7 stars was not something to be taken lightly, and the consequences of failure were unimaginable. The trio prepared for the next stage of their journey, knowing that the road ahead would be filled with danger and uncertainty. But one thing was clear: Kaito had come a long way from the street performer he once was. He was no longer just a boy seeking answers, he was a guardian of the universe, and it was up to him to protect everything he held dear. Their first destination was the abyss, the mysterious and perilous chasm where the Star of Death was rumored to be hidden. The journey was treacherous, leading them through desolate landscapes and ancient ruins, each step bringing them closer to the unknown. As they neared the abyss, Kaito could feel the presence of the Star of Death, an energy that was both cold and oppressive, like the final breath of the universe itself. The Star of Time in his possession pulsed softly in response, as if guiding him toward the Star of Death. We're almost there, Kaito said, his voice steady but filled with anticipation. The Star of Death is close. But we need to be careful. This place is cursed. Erika, ever vigilant, scanned the dark horizon. Cursed or not, we're not turning back now. With their resolve firm, they descended into the depths of the abyss, unaware of the challenges that awaited them in the darkness. The abyss loomed before them, a vast and incomprehensible chasm that stretched endlessly into the dark void. It was an unnerving sight, blackened rock formations jutted from the earth like twisted spires, and the air felt thick with an oppressive energy. The further they descended, the more Kaito felt the weight of the Star of Death calling to him, pulling him deeper into the darkness. This place, it feels alive, Leo muttered, adjusting his goggles and surveying their surroundings. His voice echoed strangely in the hollow space, and Kaito could feel the eerie silence press against his ears. We need to stay sharp, Erika said, her tone serious. The Star of Death is a powerful relic, and its influence is not something to be taken lightly. Kaito nodded, gripping the Starblade tightly. Even with the Star of Time in his possession, he felt small and vulnerable in the abyss. The energy here was different from anything they had faced so far, it was dark, cold, and relentless. The Starblade seemed to hum with power at his side, but even its light seemed dimmer in this desolate place. They moved cautiously through the abyss, the ground beneath their feet unstable and crumbling. As they ventured deeper, Kaito began to see strange symbols carved into the stone walls, symbols that seemed to glow faintly with a sickly green light. They were ancient, but Kaito could feel their magic resonating with the energy of the abyss itself. What are these symbols? Kaito asked, his voice low. I don't know, Erika said, her eyes scanning the markings. But I've never seen anything like them before. They could be tied to the Star of Death, or some ancient power meant to guard it. Leo pulled out a small device from his pack, scanning the symbols. The energy here is strange, it's like some kind of residual magic, almost like it's feeding off the darkness. Kaito shivered. The sense of death in the air was palpable. It was as if the very ground beneath them was steeped in decay. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the depths of the abyss. The sound sent a chill down their spines, and Kaito instinctively reached for the Starblade. We're not alone. Out of the shadows, massive figures began to emerge, creatures twisted by the power of the Star of Death. They were humanoid in shape, but their bodies were distorted and unnatural, as if the abyss had consumed their forms. Their eyes glowed with an eerie green light, and their movements were jerky, as though controlled by an unseen force. Void walkers, Erika muttered, her voice tight with tension. I've heard stories about these creatures. They're born from the very essence of death itself. Kaito took a step forward, the Starblade glowing brightly in his hand. We'll have to fight them. The first Void Walker lunged toward them, its claws sharp and elongated, slashing through the air with unnatural speed. Kaito swung the Starblade, its energy crackling as it collided with the creature. The blade cut through the Void Walker's twisted body with ease, but as it fell, another one appeared from the darkness, followed by two more. "We can't keep this up," Leo said, his voice laced with concern. "There's too many of them." Erica quickly knocked an arrow and released it, hitting one of the Void Walkers in the chest. The creature shrieked in pain and crumpled to the ground, but the others advanced, relentless. "We need to find the Star of Death and leave," Kaito shouted, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he parried another attack. Just as the situation seemed hopeless, a flash of light illuminated the abyss. The Starblade pulsed with intensity, resonating with a power far beyond what Kaito had experienced. The Star of Time at his side began to glow as well, its energy merging with the Starblade's. "Focus, Kaito!" Erica shouted over the chaos. "The stars are with you." Kaito closed his eyes for a brief moment, letting the power of both relics flow through him. He could feel their energies merging, time and death, light and darkness, all intertwined in his hands. He raised the Starblade high, and as he did, a shockwave of light erupted from the blade, blasting the Void Walkers back. The creatures howled in agony as the light tore through them, disintegrating their twisted forms in an instant. The remaining creatures paused, unsure of what to do, before they too were vanquished by another wave of energy from Kaito's blade. The abyss was silent once more. The creatures were gone, and for a brief moment, Kaito allowed himself to catch his breath. His heart was pounding in his chest, and his hands trembled slightly from the sheer force he had unleashed. "That was too close," Leo said, his voice shaky. "What was that light? Was that the power of the Star of Time and the Starblade combined?" Kaito nodded, his gaze fixed on the path ahead. "It's more than just power, it's the balance between life and death. The stars are guiding me. We need to keep moving." The ground beneath their feet shifted again, and Kaito could feel the pull of the Star of Death growing stronger. They were close now. The relic was within reach, but so was the danger that guarded it. The path to the Star of Death was treacherous, but Kaito and his companions pressed on. They passed through narrow tunnels, their walls carved with runes that seemed to whisper in forgotten tongues. The deeper they ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. It was as if the very air was thick with sorrow and despair. Finally, after what seemed like hours of navigating the labyrinthine depths, they reached a massive chamber. At the center of the room was a pedestal, upon which rested a black crystal, its surface cracked, glowing with an eerie red light. The Star of Death. Kaito felt a shiver run down his spine as he approached it. The energy radiating from the relic was unlike anything he had ever felt. It was dark, cold, and yet, there was a strange allure to it, a pull that beckoned him closer. "This is it," Kaito said, his voice barely above a whisper. But as he stepped forward to claim the Star of Death, the ground trembled beneath them. A low, guttural roar echoed through the chamber, and from the shadows emerged a massive creature, a guardian of the Star of Death. It was a colossal beast, its body made of twisted shadows and dark energy, with eyes that glowed like embers. Its form seemed to shift constantly, as if it were made of the very fabric of darkness itself. "This is the guardian of the Star of Death," Erica said, her voice tight with fear. "It's not going to let us take the relic easily." Kaito raised the Starblade, ready for the fight of his life. "We'll have to defeat it. We need the Star of Death to stop the void." The Guardian let out a deafening roar, charging at them with terrifying speed. Kaito, Erica, and Leo braced themselves for battle.